pitching a bat. You got beamed for crying out loud.
Who used heart attack? Me.
Managers on a Major League Baseball team don't make decisions.
They're done without that.
Credibility in this situation is worse than losing your job.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
The castration of the Major League Baseball managers, we know it.
Ask me about my winner.
I'm about to stew about something that you may not find to be that big of a deal when it comes to baseball, but it really has impacted the game and the way it's played. And I'm talking about pitcher position players coming in the game late to pitch. We might think that that's not a big deal. It's the team trying to save the arms in a bullpen, but when you're seeing it happen continuously, time after time, I saw it yesterday in Fenway Park. Matt Mervis comes in, struggles. Manager Craig Counsell comes out and actually says, hey, who wants to pitch next? Literally just hands the ball to somebody. And then, of course, the Red Sox follow with Pablo Lopez, a position player. And then in the Yankees and Milwaukee Brewer game, Owen Miller, position player for the Brewers, pitches 2 innings. Yankees respond with backup catcher Jose Trevino. Now, when this happens occasionally, I get why it's funny. I get why we could sit here and have a moment of, I don't know, we could just chuckle to each other. But player stats are impacted by what's happening here. You know, there's a guy that hits a home run. Giancarlo Stanton hits a bomb off of Owen Miller. Nobody's going to look back and say that home run shouldn't have counted because it was off of a dude that shouldn't have been pitching. But it impacts the person's stats. There's, Bobby Dahlbeck with the Boston Red Sox. Could be on the DFA bubble. Guy was hitting under 100 coming into the given game that we're talking about. He ends up getting a big hit late off of a position player, gets his batting average up. That might actually save his job. That's maybe reason number one. But the real reason, it makes the game into a charade. It makes the game into a mockery. It's no longer being taken seriously. It's almost like, one team that when they bring the position player to pitch when they're down, it's like they're quitting. And then the other team decides to do the same thing and like, hey, we're not going to take the game seriously as well. Baseball is supposed to be a serious game. For all the analysis that's done with data and stuff like that, the game's supposed to be taken seriously. It's not when you go out there and you put a pitcher of somebody who is not a pitcher on the mound. Not to mention, and I know that pitcher for the most part is not a star player. It's not Jose Canseco in 1993 for the Texas Rangers throwing out his arm, but it does put that player in risk. And when it comes down to it, the average position player is not meant to be a pitcher. J.D. Davis, now the infielder for the Athletics, pitched in college. There's a couple guys that were two-way players in college. There's some players that have the ability to throw a baseball. I'm not talking about this. It's gotten to a point where everybody's pitching. If you want to, you could go out there and lob the ball 55 miles an hour. But like I said, I have a hard time when we're quantifying stats because nobody's going to do the analysis that's needed to subtract the statistics that happened when pitchers that aren't pitchers were pitching. And you understand me now. You're following what I'm saying. Somebody can light up their stat line, make themselves look like a much better hitter by just feasting on people that should not be on the mound and pitching. And I have an issue with that. I suggest 2 things. And I hope if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're following the show, drop a comment because I want to know from your mind, from your head, from the way you're thinking, what do you think is better? I suggest maybe baseball considers adding a 14th pitcher, a non-roster player that's role is only to pitch in an emergency type of situation. Now, we got to make sure that this doesn't get overused. That player may not be your typical minor league pitcher because you want to make sure that pitcher continues to get work in the minor leagues. But maybe it's a non-roster player. Maybe it's somebody that doesn't count against your 40-man roster. You go sign somebody from the independent league on the streets to be your emergency pitcher. And you can only use an emergency pitcher X amount of times, whatever the criteria is set up. That's what you do. But let's be real. The stats of baseball are not on a level. Nobody's going to sit here and say that, this player hits, 700 when there's a position player pitching against them. Unfortunately, there's enough stats that are accumulated that we could start to follow that. It is impacting the game of baseball. And like I said, from a baseball purist, when I'm out there watching a game yesterday with a Hall of Fame pitcher and another pitcher that pitched, well over 15 years in the big leagues, it's not a good look. It's not a good look for the sport. And you may think it's a big joke. It's a big joke when it happens once a month. It's a big joke when each team does it once a season. It's an embarrassment. It's a charade when it happens every freaking week. When you not only have it done in 2 separate games yesterday, but both teams, the team that's winning and the team that's losing, both used the position player in the same game in 2 different games yesterday. And how fun is that to watch? It might be fun for the team that was winning. It might be fun for the Red Sox while they pile on against the Chicago Cubs. It might be fun for the New York Yankees and their fans while they're piling on some extra runs against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's not the way baseball should be played. I have a problem with it. And like I said, the only other thing that I could say is maybe implement some sort of mercy rule. Because you know what? You made the game unplayable. You made the game at that point unwatchable. And if you have a large lead, perhaps we should consider a mercy rule after a certain amount of time to waste this charade, this mockery, this joke of what you're seeing in a game of baseball right now. I wanted to spend a moment talking about collusion against Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees, has made a name for himself over the past 3-4 years. He's got himself thrown out a lot of games. He's riding the umpires. Maybe something about his voice. He gets in the head at the umpires. The umpires are very reactive. Maybe he just has that hard enough voice where, it permeates. Maybe there's a microphone set up in Yankee Stadium or something that every time Aaron Boone says something to the umpire, the home plate umpire, he hears him. You know about the situation last week where he got thrown out of a game for something that he allegedly didn't even say. I do think that there is some collusion when it comes to Major League Baseball and their umpires. The umpires get together. Any group of anybody, where we're talking about sports, the world, anything, they'll get together. Umpires and the like will get together and talk, whether it's formal meetings, whether it's things that's set up by the president of the umpires and the umpires union, or just umpires in regular chit-chat and random conversation. They got to have brought up Aaron Boone and his behavior over the past several seasons. Maybe nothing different than what Bobby Cox did for many years. John McGraw did it years ago. You can talk about Earl Weaver and several managers that were known, Billy Martin, for getting thrown out of a lot of games. Aaron Boone's pretty much the one guy in baseball you could say that's his thing. That's his shtick. Maybe he uses it as a gamesmanship to maybe get a call later on. But, it hasn't worked for him. Brett Gardner was with the Yankees, had that thing where he kept tapping the dugout. That pissed the umpires off. That led them to kind of putting the Yankees under a microscope a little bit. And I think that's what's happening with Aaron Boone. And Aaron Boone should probably take a look and see what is happening. He got thrown out of a game that probably wasn't because of anything that he said. And there is a little bit of collusion going on amongst the baseball umpires. They're saying they're tired of Aaron Boone's antics. They're tired of the things that Aaron Boone says. They're tired of the jockeying that Aaron Boone continues to do behind the dugout. Is he going to change it? He might not, and nor does he really have to. But if this continues, expect to see him under more of a microscope and more umpires like Hunter Wendelstedt, other umpires that are tired of his antics over the past handful of seasons. They're going to be a little quick with the trigger when it comes to throwing him out of games. I would expect to see Aaron Boone get thrown out of more games going forward. Last thing I wanted to touch on, NFL draft when it comes to quarterbacks. The 4th draft in the history of the NFL to have quarterbacks go 1 through 3 in a draft. The first one in the history of the NFL draft to have 6 quarterbacks going through the top 12. One thing that stands out, and I didn't look at the last couple picks, so there may be another quarterback or two. I only saw 5 more quarterbacks after those 12 picks go in that entire draft. And I think it was Spencer Rattler of South Carolina going into 5th round. So, what I see was there was obviously a premium on quarterbacks like there is every year. But I believe after Bo Nix was selected by the Denver Broncos, I think teams were like, dude, I don't know if we want to reach. I don't know if we want to reach for Spencer Rattler. I don't know if we want to reach for some of the other quarterbacks that are out there, because that's kind of the way it was going. Whether it was the Raiders, whether it was, turns out New Orleans is the one that ends up with Rattler. A lot of other teams in the NFL, they're like, hey, we could at least use some depth at this position. And, to go from the 12th pick all the way to round 5 between quarterback selections, I think there is something to that. I think the teams that went up there and got their quarterback kind of scared away the rest of the league. The rest of the league was like, well, you know what? I don't know if we want to reach for the next quarterback that we're selecting. This is the Pass Ball Show, brought to you by JohnPielli.com, by St. Aloysius Church in Jackson, New Jersey, by Two Ways, One Passion Food Truck located in Scranton, Pennsylvania. If you're interested in hearing me continuously flap my yap mouth, which I like to do, I'm doing the top 10 when it comes to all different things in the world of sports. I've done a couple things outside of sports. I've done top comedians. I've done top late night talk show hosts. There's a couple other things in that element that I'm going to get to. Drop a line. Throw a comment, whatever way you want. Let me know what you like to hear me do a top 10 on. I'm going to do some when it comes to the NFL draft over the course of the next week. Catch me on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, videos, of course, on YouTube. We'll be back with you soon. God bless you. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.
Chris Bryant was on the Chicago Cubs roster opening day.
I have many leather-bound books. My apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Why don't you give it all or a majority of it to the team that wins the friggin' World Series?
I was going to listen to that, but then I just carried on living my life.
Now they come out as the biggest Major League Baseball manager apologist,
That'll only make someone work just hard enough not to get fired.
because hitters are going out there saying, I'm either going to hit a home run or I'm going to strike out. And if I don't get a pitch that I feel like I could drive out of the park,
Not even supposed to be here today.
especially you prospect whores and hoarders, are going to be a little pissed off at me when I say this.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
There are only 2 managers in baseball's Hall of Fame who have losing records. One of them is the iconic Connie Mack, who you could say, in spite of winning 5 World Series championships as a manager, could be in as much as a pioneer. And what side of the spectrum they're on. Were they pitching? Were they batting? If your favorite team was pitching and a ball got inside to hit a batter, there's no way that could have been on purpose. But if you were a fan of the team that was batting and a ball got inside and hit somebody or went behind somebody's head, absolutely 100%, unequivocally, that pitcher was throwing at. They put their tail between their legs and decided they're going to do exactly what they're told. You damn well right better give him a contract extension. You damn well right better make him the man.